everyone, it's Matt from Train Sim Society, and welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you're new. So before we jump in, quick disclaimer, this is not a sponsored video. Sim Workshop did not send me this controller. I bought the TSC-X with my own hard-earned money, and everything I say in this video is 100% honest and unbiased. So today I'm going to be reviewing the TSC-X Train Simulator controller from Sim Workshop. I have a lot to say about this thing, but right off the bat, I want to be clear that this is not a comparison video. I do bring up the rail driver briefly, just for context, since it's the only other train sim controller I've personally used, but this review is about the TSC-X and my honest experience with it. So let's start with first impressions. When the controller arrived, I did have one issue. The little 3D printed plastic decorative cover around the throttle lever was broken right out of the box. Not ideal, but to their credit, Sim Workshop responded to my email immediately, even apologized and said they'd be sending a replacement. They also told me they're upgrading future packaging with more durable nylon protection to help prevent that kind of damage from happening again. Honestly, that response gave me a really good first impression, not just of the product, but of the company that's making it. So now let's talk build quality. The main casing is a full metal body, matte black, and it just feels solid. The levers themselves are also metal, but the tips are plastic, and some of the internal components are plastic as well. It's not entirely metal inside, but the weight and feel give off a premium vibe. Now, for the most part, the controller doesn't slide around. Sometimes it does drift though, and I think that's due to the foam pads on the bottom. I think this could be improved by switching these out for rubber, and I'm honestly probably gonna make that change myself DIY. The reverser lever actually has a little rubber piece on top, which I really like. It's satisfying to use and feels realistic. And as for the buttons, they're a mix of metal and plastic. They're very clicky and loud, but in a good way. I actually prefer that because when I'm playing with the sound loud, it helps to hear that feedback so I know a button's been pressed. You've also got a spring-loaded emergency brake switch that you press down and twist to reset, which is another nice detail. And the big yellow button on the far left is plastic as well, just for transparency. So performance-wise, I've got a lot of good things to say. Most of the levers feel smooth and tight. The resistance is satisfying and deliberate. That said, I did run into one issue with the throttle lever though. Around the 40 to 50% range, there's a noticeable spot where the lever physically rubs or catches slightly. It creates a little dead zone where the in-game input freezes, then suddenly jumps once you pass that point. I brought that up to Sim Workshop in one of my emails to them, and they explained it's actually part of the design. There's a small dead zone at low, mid, and high throttle positions to improve stability, but they also said they'd be sending me a firmware update to remove those dead zones if I wanted a smoother response. I did ask if it was reversible and haven't yet received a response from them, so I'm hoping that it is, but I will update you guys when I do try it out. So on the topic of lever movement, another thing worth mentioning is that the levers are not notched. It is a completely smooth ride from 0 to 100%, and honestly, I think that's the better design choice. Different trains have different notch types. Some have 4, some have 6, 7, 8, or 10. And if this thing had fixed notches, it wouldn't be adaptable across everything. I think the smooth lever design just works out better. You don't need extra hardware, it's universal and honestly just makes more sense. And on the topic of movement and smoothness, the sensitivity and precision on this thing is amazing. I was driving the SNG Sprinter on the Zwolle to Groningen route, for example, a train with only one lever for throttle and braking. As most of us know, that lever is super sensitive in game. Whether you're tapping A and D on a keyboard or lightly pressing the trigger on your gamepad, you end up jumping 5 to 10% in power with just the tiniest input. But on this controller, you have total control. I can nudge the lever tiny increments, 41%, 42%, then to 43%. It is super precise. It doesn't skip, other than the small dead zone that I mentioned previously. This makes a huge difference in how you drive. Holding speed, managing braking, and navigating gradients becomes much easier and also just more enjoyable with this thing, honestly. Now, full transparency, again, I've only had this controller for about 3 days, but I've already started to notice a small, high-pitched squeak coming from the middle lever. It happens when moving it from bottom to top, mostly around the 0 to 30% range. It's not a problem yet, but I'm keeping an eye on it, and hopefully it doesn't get worse, and if it does, I'm wondering if I'll need to grease or oil the mechanism to quiet it down. I'm really not sure, and I'm actually going to email them about that because I started experiencing this last night while I was capturing footage for my review. But setup-wise, it's plug and play with the TSW joystick interface plugin. There's one USB-C port on the back of the controller, and it comes with a USB-C to USB-A cable. You plug it in, and the software recognizes it right away, and the calibration is honestly very simple. I won't go into setup tutorials here, but I'll link to the software and manual down in the description. It officially supports Train Sim World 3, 4, and 5 with the additions of Train Simulator 2019 through 2024 and Zuzi 3. The buttons are fully customizable through open source programming, and I really hope someday there's a dedicated UI or tool that makes that process even easier. It's also important to note this is for PC only. If you're on consoles, this is not going to work for you. I'm sorry. I made a post about this controller in the Train Sim community Facebook page, and there were a lot of people asking me about consoles, so I just have to bring that one up. So let's talk price. The TSC-X retails for around 230 euros. That's about 250 US dollars, 196 British pounds, and 342 Canadian dollars. And honestly, I think it's worth it. Is it expensive? Yeah, but this is a niche market, and Train Sim controllers are not cheap. For comparison, the Rail Driver currently sells for 229 US dollars. And while it's nice that it has built-in support now and has a ton of buttons, it's still just a big chunk of plastic. Plastic casing, plastic buttons, plastic levers. Mine wore out fast. The speaker even blew out, the levers started drifting, the labels wore off with use. Everything just felt like it was falling apart, and it honestly, in my opinion, was more like a toy than anything else. The TSC-X might have fewer buttons, yes, but this thing is built like a tank, like it is heavy. Definitely feels closer to real train hardware. And when I looked into other options like the Flexi Lever controllers, those were either the same price or even higher in price, and only came with 1 or 2 levers. No safety system buttons, no horn, no doors, none of that. And then you gotta buy extra notchers on top of that. For the price, what I'm reviewing here has way more value. And the customer support was fantastic. They replied fast, acknowledged the issues with the broken part, and are already sending a replacement. And they even welcomed my honest feedback and said they were happy I'd be reviewing it publicly. It honestly felt like I was talking to a real simmer and not just some random tech rep or something. But one small wishlist item, I would love to see haptic feedback in a future version. Something that vibrates when you pass over the junctions or move a lever, like what you feel with an Xbox or PS controller in Train Sim World. I think that really increased the immersion on this thing even more. It's one of my favorite parts about using a controller to play this game. I love that vibrating when going over junctions and stuff. So all in all, the TSC-X is not perfect by any means, but it's very impressive. I do think this is their first Train Sim product, like in terms of an actual controller for this game. And I think they did a really good job. It's built well, it performs well, and it gives you a level of control that's honestly hard to match for the price point. And before I close this out, just to repeat, this is not a sponsored review. I paid for this controller myself. I don't have the money to go out and buy every single Rail controller on the market, but I would love to do more reviews like this. So if there are any developers out there that want to work with me on future sponsored content, I am definitely open to it. My business email is links down in the description. But I hope you guys enjoy this review. Let me know what you think about this controller, if it's something you're interested in picking up, if you happen to be someone that is in the market for one, or you maybe collect them. But I have to say, this is definitely my favorite when comparing it with the Rail driver, which I no longer use. That thing is cooked. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care and happy rail simming.